Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys Star Wars The Mandalorian 1/6 scale figure unboxing and review video. Now today, I'm super excited to be taking a look at none other than the Death Watch Mando himself. Y'all know I'm a huge Mandalorian / Boba Fett fan, and this just speaks to me. Let's call it what it is. It's a blue Clone Wars inspired version of Boba Fett's armor, so yeah, I can't wait to get it out here. If you are looking to grab him, I got mine from toyswonderland.com. A link for that is of course down in the description below. They've got 12-month installment plans and an awesome reward system. What we are going to do now though is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. Here of course we have the box art for the Death Watch Mandalorian. Right up here on the front we do have an image of the figure himself. Another one down below on this front slip cover that they seem to be doing with all of the figures in the Mandalorian line, which I appreciate. They're keeping it consistent. We do have another shot on the side there, and of course all of the relevant legal information on the back. Now on the inside is where they really went to town with the artwork. It's a stunning photoshopped image of the Death Watch Mando in action. I really love that picture. Now I personally did pick up two. Now you may be thinking that's overkill, but trust me, there's one key accessory here that I think will make a couple of people who were contemplating only picking up one to go ahead and get a second. More on that in just a second. But here we have Death Watch Mando himself. Now something that you may not know about me is my favorite color is blue. So this is speaking my language. I am loving the look and feel of this guy in hand. Now he does of course come with one tray, so what we are going to do now is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Here we have all of the parts and pieces that come with Death Watch Mando. Now starting off with the display base first, I mean, this guy is a Mandalorian in the Mandalorian line, right? So he has to come with the sand footprint style display base, right? I mean, Hot Toys totally thinks so, but for me, I've seen this one too many times. I would have liked something different, but at the very least, it does work for Death Watch. I mean, he has normal human feet, so they can fit in these little footprints, versus IG-11, whose feet are literal rectangles that could never make this style of footprint. I'm still scratching my head to this day as to why they gave him this particular base, but for Death Watch, this is more than serviceable. I also like the sculpt, the texture, and the color. It's a nice moon dust style color, and it will contrast very nicely alongside the vibrant blue of his armor. We do have Death Watch Mandalorian etched on the front in this gorgeous metal nameplate here. I would have been fine with just Death Watch, but I totally understand what they were going for. Now, because he is a Mandalorian and he's known to take flight, he does come with a dynamic flight pole, and then to go along with that, you get a spring-loaded waist clamp to attach him to the base. Now, to have him in midair, he of course needs to come with his jetpack. This is stunning. It's really nicely painted. Even on the back there's some airbrushing and weathering. On the front, these vibrant silver sections do have a ton of pitting, and that can be seen throughout. This thing looks awesome. It is also a brand new sculpt. Bringing in the Beskar Mandalorian one, it's a completely different shape and size. All of the various little canisters and sections are different. You do have a little bit more detail on the Beskar version. You may be thinking, well, then it's identical to the 501st. Well, wrong again, unfortunately. Bringing in the Captain Rex version, it is a little bit smaller. The details are different. This slopes down a lot more versus this curved look of the Rex one. And then, of course, the rocket little booster sections are flared out here versus the Death Watch one, which goes straight up and down. Now, he does come with the blast effects, as you'd expect, which you can simply plug in the bottom, and it's a very convincing effect. It's a nice translucent orange. It's a little bit darker towards the top, and then it comes down to a nice, lighter, vibrant yellow. So yeah, I am a huge fan of these blast effects, and I'm glad we got them once again with Deathwatch here. Now you may be wondering what on earth I was alluding to when I said he comes with a piece that means you should or could technically pick up two. It's this armor plate. They give you a completely different swap out plate for his thigh armor. This one right here gets replaced with this. So you can have two completely different looking Deathwatch Mandos, I mean, so far as one armor plate, but it's enough to create a little bit of a different look on display. This armor plate is also really nicely painted, weathered, chipped, battle damaged, and you do have a Velcro piece on the back, so it's super easy to install. Now he does come with two very classic looking Deathwatch Mando blasters. I tried to look up the details of these, but it's simply called this the Deathwatch Blaster Rifle. If you know what it's called, do let me know down below, but I love the way it looks. It's a very unique design. It kind of gives me Boba Fett vibes with the way this back section looks, but it's completely weathered. It does have a really nice gunmetal finish up towards the top here, and it has a foregrip. That's something that you don't see all that often with Star Wars weaponry. He also comes with this very animated, inspired looking pistol. The only unfortunate thing if you just pick up one is you only get one. I would have loved for this guy to come with two, but luckily, because I have a second Deathwatch, I can now give him the dual-wielding badass look that I so desperately want in the display, so one of my Deathwatch troopers will absolutely have two pistols. Lastly, he does come with an array of hands. These are identical to the Mandalorian hands, they're just painted black with a blue panel on the outside, whereas Mando has that blue triangle, very Shore Trooper-esque. What we are going to do now though is get the Deathwatch himself out here and take a closer look. Here we have him, standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that, and hot damn, this guy looks glorious. I wasn't expecting to be as wowed as I am by him, cause let's be honest, on paper it's a super simple release. It's a bunch of Boba Fett and Mandalorian parts coloured in blue on a grey flight suit, but trust me, it all comes together perfectly. It's painted gorgeously, there's weathering and scuffs and nicks, there's also the various markings, including the Deathwatch sigil up on his shoulder pad there, which just adds a little bit more visual flair in the display. Also, whatever body they're using is slightly bigger than both Boba Fett and Din Djarin, so it gives him a very buff, muscular, imposing presence, which does a great job of offsetting the overly large helmet. For once, the helmet doesn't look too big, because on Boba Fett, it was always meant to look that way, because it looked that way on screen, whereas this guy, he just has a presence. There's no other way to describe him. So yeah, if you're on the fence, get off the damn fence and go ahead and pick yourself up one of these Deathwatch Mandos. What we are going to do now though is take him off the rotating turntable, punch in, and take a closer look at the details. Here we have him up close and personal. And oh boy, I'm in trouble here. While some people may have the 501st Troopers as their kryptonite, I think the Deathwatch Mando is very quickly becoming mine. I can foresee a bunch of these guys making their way into my display. I don't think 2 is anywhere near enough. Now, starting off with the helmet first, it's very simply a straight reuse of the 40th anniversary Boba Fett alternate helmet. You can tell because there's no dint up the top here, but the shape, the size, the dimensions are all identical. The colours though are vastly different. He still has the working rangefinder that can come down, but everything is done in this really dusty, dirty looking blue. And it works, it looks gorgeous. There are also some paint chips around the visor, just to give him a little bit more attitude. He also has that little port on the front that I'm pretty sure is a communication port. Now his flight suit is almost identical to that of Din Djarin, the Mandalorian. It's this grey fabric flight suit, so you shouldn't have to worry about creasing or damage over time. But it is worth noting he is fully padded, so that means he's going to be slightly more restricted. I mean, you could totally do some surgery and cut the flight suit off, like so many have done with Durasteel Mando, but for me, it gives him that more buff look, so I'm definitely keeping it on here. They've also reused a bunch of Din Djarin's parts. This chest plate is right off the Durasteel Mando, but it works perfectly here. I do like these stripes along the front that continue onto these shoulder pads, and they do have a little bit of a triangle there, just for a little bit more flair. It's also nicely weathered, there's scuffs and scratches, and when the light hits these silver pieces, they glow a treat. They are nice and shiny. He also has these big honkin' panels that go all the way around to the back there, just to give him a little bit more definition. Now, of course, the jetpack is magnetic, but it is worth noting this upper vest piece is made of pleather with the magnets sewn in. I think it should be fine, it feels nice and sturdy, but only time will tell to see if that degrades. But either way, it's hidden under the jetpack anyway. Now, coming down, he does have two different gauntlets on either side. This one has the little panel up the front, it's again nicely painted and weathered, whereas the other side has those little darts up the top. I'm not exactly sure if these are brand new or reused. Do let me know if you know down in the comments below. Now the belt itself is a pleathery piece also. It's not a solid sculpted plastic unit, which I was hoping it was going to be, but hey, it's not the end of the world, it still gets the job done quite nicely. You can install the blaster pistol into the holster. It's a little bit cumbersome to get that little magnet to clasp on, but it does hold the blaster nicely in place. And that holster is also just a little bit weathered. It's hard to tell on camera, but trust me, in person it's definitely there. Now, speaking of weathering, the flight suit itself does have some airbrushing on the seams. That's something that is accurate to how they did the costumes on the show, and trust me, if it wasn't there, that little dark wash down in the seams there, it would look very crisp and very clean, so I'm glad they did it. Now he does have two different thigh plates, both stolen from the various versions of The Mandalorian. This one specifically from the Beskar version, but if you do take it off and install the alternate one, this one was from the Durasteel one. It does have that line down the side like you saw earlier, but for this guy I'm going to go with this panel right here. It's a little bit bigger and it provides a little bit more protection. He does have those three stripes once again up the top, and then he does have these U's on his knee pads. Do let me know if all of these markings bear some significance down in the comments. As for the boots, they are pretty much the boots that we saw with Han Solo from the Solo film. They're a little bit more rounded towards the front, some dirt and grime on the toe, and also just around the edge of the sole with some sculpted in detail. It's also an asymmetrical design. There's one brown band on one side, whereas the other has this little canister piece. Overall though, even though this is a fairly simple design on paper, you all know me, I love my Mandos, I love Boba Fett, so I automatically was going to gravitate towards this design. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, here we have the 40th anniversary deluxe style version of Boba Fett on the right, and Death Watch Mando on the left. Now I specifically chose this version of Boba Fett because it shares the most similarities, specifically of course in the helmet. They are identical, so this is the one they've taken to make the Death Watch. And it just works. It's a larger style helmet, but it's not so large that it comes across goofy. The Death Watch Mando still looks like a total badass. And yes, he is a little bit taller than Boba Fett, so you aren't getting the exact same underlying body and the exact same helmet. There's a little bit of stuff that's different here, so he will stand out on the shelf, if the blue color wasn't enough. Next up, here we have my custom Season 2 version of Beskar Mando alongside Deathwatch, and once again, Deathwatch is a little bit taller. I really like that. That makes him look even more imposing, and he will definitely tower over some of the other Mandos in the display. Plus, if you have him in midair, that means you're going to have him hovering quite significantly above the rest. That's what I'm tempted to do in my display, have two flying Deathwatch Mandos with the heavy Mando in the center. But now I'm getting sidetracked. We'll work on that when we pop him in the collection. But for now, yeah, I know it's not canonical to have these two standing side by side, but this guy could also work just as a modern day generic Mando in your collection. You're not tied down to having him in the early eras like the Clone Wars. You can totally use him in your Mando display. Just going over articulation on Deathwatch Mando. Now bear in mind this is my personal copy of the figure, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm sure when you get yours in hand, you can push the joints slightly further than I'm willing to go. Now, starting off with the bucket, he does have a ball joint at the base of the helmet itself and another at the base of the neck. So going forward, a fairly decent range. Going back, equally as decent. Swivel side to side, and a ton of pivot. As for the arms, they will go up to about there. It is worth noting that he does have a fat suit underneath, just like the other Mandos. Going forward on soft ratchets pretty much the full way, butterfly joint at the shoulder, a double bend at the elbow, swivel at the bicep, and a regular 1/6 scale wrist peg. As for the torso, you have crunch forward and back, swivel and pivot side to side. The legs, being slightly restricted by that fat suit, will go forward to there. They will go out to there. Swivel at the upper thigh, a double bend on soft ratchets at the knee, and of course a ball joint down here for the ankle. Just going over the 3 cool and 3 annoying things with Deathwatch Mando. The first annoying thing is the style of boot that they've used. For some reason, with Star Wars characters, they really don't like doing the split-cut boot design. They would prefer to make the seamless pleather boots. While they do look fantastic, I am worried that they won't be able to stand the test of time. My DX07 Bespin Luke is starting to decay right where this crease is, and that material, while it is a little bit more felty and suede-y, is still very similar to this, so I'm hoping it won't be an issue, but it's definitely something to be aware of. The second annoying thing, and you all probably guessed it, it's the reuse of this display base. I mean, I liked it the first 35 times we saw it, but this is just, I think, one too many. To have every single character in the same line lined up on the shelf and have their display bases looking identical, it just doesn't really sit well with me. I would have liked something slightly different. The third annoying thing is the way they've done these blast effect pieces. I mean, the sculpts are identical, but here's the one that came with Captain Rex, and here's the one that came with Deathwatch. This one is more of a just flat orange. The Captain Rex one has a little bit more of a gradient. It's super vibrant up the top here, then it evens out to a nice translucent yellow, whereas Deathwatch is pretty much just all one color. This right here is my personal preferred color scheme. The first cool thing is the inclusion of the alternate thigh plate. I mean, it's not the biggest difference in the world, but it's enough. It's something that if you want to army build, you can make use of to have a little bit of variance on the shelf. That means, yes, you do have something that's a little bit different, but you can very clearly tell they're in the same family, they're from the same clan, they're on the same team. It's just something that will make it look a little bit less monotonous. The second cool thing, of course, is the magnetic jetpack. I mean, this is nothing new at this point, but I just love the way it super simply and easily pops on there. Now, if only we can get this on Boba Fett, because those annoying little clips that they always use just don't work. The third cool thing may technically be a little bit of a cop-out, but it's that we got this Death Watch Mando at all. I never thought this was going to happen. He was on screen for a very short period of time, and this is a character that could technically work very well in your Mando shelf, or work easily as well in your Clone Wars display. There's universal appeal here. I know a ton of people who are picking this up exclusively to go with their Clone Wars figures, and I'm very tempted to do the same. Just wrapping up on the Hot Toys Death Watch Mandalorian. Now, going into this, I was obviously very excited. In fact, I told you that in the intro. But even I wasn't prepared to love this guy as much as I do. It's a very simple yet very effective release. All of the parts that they reused here were done for good reason. It's accurate to his appearance in the Mandalorian show. But he has a broader appeal than that. If you are collecting Clone Wars figures, you can totally get a bunch of these and pop them in your Clone Wars display. I'm tempted to do that myself because the Mandalorian collection is already getting a little bit bloated with the various characters that are being made, but Clone Wars is starting to look a little bit more sparse, so that's where these are going in my collection. The sculpt, the paint applications, the overall presence of this guy, it's all on point, and then we get to the accessories. I love the weapons, the magnetic jetpack, it works like a treat, and the fact that they actually went ahead and included a swap-out thigh plate, something that I never imagined them doing, is just icing on the cake. So if you do pick up a second one, he won't be looking identical in the display. Have one with the jetpack and the bigger blaster, have the other with two pistols, no jetpack and the different thigh plate, plus flip the rangefinder down, and you have two very different but also fairly similar looking Death Watch Mandos. I am so happy with this particular release. Now, if you are looking to pick him up, he is available from toyswonderland.com. A link for that is, of course, down in the description below. They do have 12-month installment plans and an awesome reward system. While you're down there, check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the awesome Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.